whammy this week. We have guests today, Tuesday, March 31st, and usually we're on Wednesdays at 1 p.m., but we have two shows this week for you. And I am joined by my co-host, Carlos Ponce from Mexico City, and our guest today, Do, Donato Diorio with Data Z. Hi, Donato. Welcome. Where are you joining us from?
I am in the great state of Wisconsin in the central U.S.
All right. So, Donato, tell us a little bit about yourself. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. So, I am the founder, CEO from Data Z, and basically I'm an entrepreneur. This is my fourth and a half company, and I typically work with technologies that are on, I wouldn't say the bleeding edge, but I guess I like to discover and find unutilized areas and focus on that, because it ends up being a lot easier to sell when you come out with something that you don't have competitors.
I like it. I like your mic setup there too. And I have to ask you afterwards what that means. Half company. We have to go into that, right? How do you build a half company?
Well, it's a longer discussion.
All right, we may not have time for that today, but tell us a little bit about Data Z.
Sure. So for the last 2 years, Data Z has been focused on consulting. So typically enterprise organizations that have a problem with their data. It could be CRM, marketing automation. It could be data acquisition, lead generation, the life cycle of data from landing forms to acquiring the data, cleaning it up. So in the last 2 years, I was a gun for hire that came in and helped look at everything, the big picture, and I helped set the data strategy. So I might have brought in many different technologies to help solve a client's problem. It could have been lead generation, data append. My old company did deduping. I would bring in to help solve the problem. But invariably, there are gaps that no one has a solution for. And when there were gaps, I built technologies. Being a software engineer, software architect going way back, I would find a way to bridge the gap. And I don't believe in drudgery. When I see anybody anywhere doing something that can be automated, I want to automate it for them. I want people in all lines of work to be using their brains in unique ways, not doing something that a computer can do. So last 2 years, I found niches that were not served, and I built products around them. And now I'm just coming out and launching those products.
Cool, very cool. Carlos, let's go right into it. What's the topic for today? Let's get right into it.
Absolutely, Tulio. Thank you so much. And well, today, Tulio, we're going to be speaking about selling, marketing, and networking and data. Or as Donato has put it, we're going to be talking about adjusting the basics and remaking yourself in uncertain times. Talk about uncertain times, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about today with Donato, with our guest, Tulio.
So, Donato, tell me a little bit about this idea of I think one of the topics was reinventing yourselves in uncertain time. Did I get that right, Carlos, or did I miss? So,
no,
what did you have in mind?
Yes.
What did you have in mind there with coming up with that topic of conversation?
Well, obviously, I hate talking about COVID, but it's everywhere, and it's affecting us. We've got less time to sell, less time to market, fewer meetings, less building of software if you're building it, no face-to-face meetings. We can't go to the gym, or in my case, the pool. So if you look at the data, what do? Okay, I can't swim, so I walk 5 miles a day. Your CRM, you're not selling as much. Well, it's a perfect time to clean your data, to verify every phone number, to get ready, segment it, look at your industries, make sure you got it standardized. Do everything you can do now, because at some point, things invariably go back to normal, no matter what happens. So this is a great time to focus on the things that you're not typically doing. So reinvent myself. I'm taking a class on machine learning right now. 2 years ago, I started learning Python. Do I do coding anymore? No, but I lead software engineers that do the machine learning and that side of things. So I have to reinvent myself and learn those, not from the perspective of a developer, but I don't want my engineers to bullshit me. So I need to have at least enough knowledge to understand milestones of the different technologies. So I've had to reinvent myself in the last couple of years. And now it's going from data, right? What's the data setting? What do I do? To networking, right? My co-founder at Broadluck, Carlos knows, Dan Hughes would always say, Donato, be brilliant at the basics. And I've always taken that to heart. Whether it's learning to do a voicemail, which I've actually taught classes on, or teaching someone how to do outreach and selling, break it down and be brilliant at those basics. But if things have changed, you've got to make some adjustments.
It's an interesting observation. I think sometimes what's going on, it's similar to the experience you might have at the end of a relationship, right? Whether it's a long-term committed relationship or marriage, you could do one of two things. You can go inward and figure out what you need to improve and work on, or you can blame everything around you, right? So it's very tempting for companies to just blame what's going on and just say, well, we have to do all these things because of that. And it's a victim consciousness, right? Or from what I'm hearing is, go inward, look at where there's opportunities to prepare, to go into hibernation, if you will, go a little bit inward, figure out how to get your house in order and make some investments where necessary so you can come out stronger. So what are some key things in your opinion right now that companies can do to prepare themselves for coming out of this hibernation? I mean, literally we're in hibernation, right? But it's going to come to an end at some point, whether it's in a few weeks or a month, it's going to end. So what can companies do to take advantage of this time to get their house in order? Some key things you think that they ought to invest in and look at to effectively do that.
Well, of course, self-serving. I'm like, get your data in order, but it really is a good time. But let me focus on an area that can help everybody. I mean, get your data in order so you can make less effort with the same amount of time, and that's what getting your data in order can do. But let's talk about networking, right? I'm doing a lot of networking. I mean, I had a choice I had these products getting ready, and I could have come out with one every couple weeks like I had planned. But when this stuff all happened, I'm like, you know what? I have to adjust. So I came out with all 5 last week with 2 more coming. And as I'm doing the outreach, this is I guess, sales adjustment. If someone doesn't have capital to get 1 or 2, I can add more value. I can throw some things in. So that's adjusting in sales. It's being sensitive to the times. Networking. I get a lot of invites. I mean, after this, it gets out there. I'll promote it on my channel as well. I'll get a bunch of invites, and a lot are, here's what I do, Donato. Nothing else, like, how are you? I read about you. I know who you are and what you do. It's just a standard template, and I'm talking about either email or LinkedIn. And it goes back to when Carlos and I first met. I wrote a blog called How to Sell to Me, and the concepts still stand. So when I'm networking now, last week, my schedule was packed, absolutely packed with 15-minute meetings. Somebody wanted to sell to me, and I said, hey, you know what? I will take that 15 minutes, and I will listen to what you have to sell to me. May not be a fit, but if it's not, I'll give you feedback on your pitch. If it is, and I can't afford it or don't need it, I'll try to give you an idea where to go. Let's make this true networking versus give me, what can I get from you? And I said, the only thing that I ask to give you this 15 minutes is I want you to watch these little product videos and tell me what you think. So when we first meet, you tell me where I went wrong. What could I have done better? What was not understandable? And I will spend 15 minutes with you, and you can tell me. 1 in 5 people take me up on it. The other 4, they cannot see past the end of their nose. Maybe they're panicked. maybe the times are getting to them, but this is the time to stop and listen to your fellow human. And maybe at the end of the call, I talked to an offshore development company, and the guy took the time, and I gave him a load of advice on, look, you can't just do this. Learn about what they do. Mention the college he went to. When was the last time you've been back to South Bend to see the Fighting Irish if they went to Notre Dame? That gets people's attention. It shows you that you spent the time to learn about them. And that initial pitch turned into a coaching session. He was in his mid-20s. I enjoyed helping him. And there's a lot of people on both sides that will spend the time in that networking, but you can't have the greed-based sales approach. You have to truly be willing to make it go both ways.
I like the way you call it greed-based. I'm not as kind as you. I call it a spray and pray strategy. That the amateur spray and pray. I can't tell you how many emails on LinkedIn I've gotten in the past couple of weeks. Just exactly that, and it's a shame because there's plenty of data that can help people do some homework to figure out how to connect properly. Right? It's like I get emails all the time, companies offering to do software development. I'm like, we're in the software development.
Exactly. Companies
homework.
Like you. I sell to companies like you.
We're part of a team of like 4,000 people globally. There's not much you're going to be able to offer. And it's like, do your homework, right? But I think that's great advice. Use this time to get smarter. Go inward. Look at your practices in terms of your sales strategy, or how are you using data, whether you're using data, and be smart about how to be more effective. What else do you think people can do right now besides just getting smarter from a networking perspective? Companies that are trying to prepare how to properly assess. In some cases, companies are thinking about pivoting, right? If you're in the logistics business right now, well, if you're not serving the healthcare space, you might want to take advantage of pivoting to the healthcare space right now because there's a huge opportunity. So what can companies do to get smart about making decisions quickly using data to effectively make that happen?
I think, again, it's being more humanistic, and I would say be more open, be more honest in your marketing. If you don't sell one thing in your in your outreach, and then when you connect, pivot to something else. So for me, I'm honest. I'm a startup. I've been working 2 years in these products, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give the first 10 startups, the first 10 mid-market, and the first 10 enterprises lifetime licenses. It's like, am I doing this as a gimmick? It's like, no, I need to recoup my development costs. And Carlos, I don't know if you know this, but I started Broadlook 2 months after 9/11. So I've been here before. I've experienced this unsuredness, and in my calls, I can be a voice of stability. I think that helps a lot. Assure them that when they want to deviate into, well, I'm not getting any calls to that, or I'm not making. It's like, you know what? Let's focus on the business. Tell me about what you do. Be a voice of stability. Be a voice of uplift as you talk to people, and be more honest in your outreach. So when you connect with somebody, you've already set the table for what it is that you want to talk about in the situation that you're in, and the fact that you're flexible.
Donato, I wanted to ask you a question. You're talking about being honest, how important it is to be honest or to be upfront. So in that context, what I'd like to ask you is, I've seen a lot of companies out there, especially companies that are building products, software products. They're giving out what I call giveaways or freebies or what you would call it, right? So, and for some, it might be a little on the gimmicky side, right?
Mhm.
Because, oh, yeah, they know that a lot of people know that if you give something away, especially in a crisis situation like this one, you are going to be perceived as someone who is good-hearted, well-meaning, which might be true, right? But I think it's also might also fall on the gimmicky side. So there's a fine line between one side and the other. So in that context, what sort of advice would you give companies that are trying to do their own part, their own honest part in doing something to help out? So what can they do, and what should they stay away from?
Well, I'm a consumer as well. And recently I was going to, I won't mention what service it was, but it was something that's like, I don't need this anymore. And I reached out to cancel it, and they went from, it was like $40 a month to down to 15. And they spun it as because of the COVID situation, we're going to do this to help out. It's like, no, they're a corporation. They're a major multinational corporation. And if they would have said that we're doing this to retain your business, and we want to show you that we're flexible, we want to retain your business, so when this is over, you're still with us. That would have been honest. Versus when it's, and yes, I do believe there are some corporate CEOs out there from multi-billion organizations that mean well, but they have a fiduciary responsibility to their board of directors to make dollars and make money. So when I see it, it doesn't always pass the smell test or sniff test, whatever you call it. That it's like, no, you're trying to retain your business. Say you're trying to retain the business. You want to keep me as a customer. Say you want to keep me as a customer. Say you're being flexible. Don't filter it with all this stuff that just doesn't sound real. It's just,
right. Yeah, especially nowadays that I see there a lot, and I see this a lot. It's like because of the COVID situation, then boom, fill in the blank. Whatever the reason is. So they're using it. A lot of folks out there are using it, the COVID argument or the COVID situation as to make a point, right? To justify thing when they should have said, all they should have said is just, we want to retain your business. That you said,
I know if I don't cut my prices,
honest.
I'm going to lose your business, right?
Yeah, right.
And it's like, okay, I'm in the situation. Something I could have charged $5,000 for 3 months ago. I personally, I've never been a price discounter, so I'm going to innovate my way out of it, and I'm going to come up with 3 other things they probably need and say, you know what? No extra charge. Be one of my first customers. Get a lifetime license. I will do what I need to do. And I did the same thing when I launched Broadlook. There was about 30 companies that got lifetime licenses, and every year when I got the renewal, it was like a stab in the chest. It might have been $1,000 for a $10,000 package, or free because I gave them a lifetime license. But they were the best clients, and they introduced me to people over the years, and it went a long way. And when I had customers that lost a spouse or a child in the case or something like that, and I found out, it's like, no, you keep that, and eventually when you can pay again, you pay me. You can't do that for everybody. You go out of business, but you can have a heart, and you can help out. Somebody came to me recently. They want the new stuff. Donato, I can't afford it. I said, you know what? Bring 3 other people with you. Split the cost. I don't care. As long as I just have to support one person, I'm good with it. So again, I'm a small company, and we can do that. Make that decision. Make an audible call. But do what you can to help your fellow person. Again, it's that simple. I shouldn't have to spell it out, but that's my philosophy.
It's chaos like this that shows the true colors of people and companies, right? In 2008, during one of the worst economic downturn we experienced, we had some companies that rise to the occasion and became the giants. Airbnb, Uber. These are companies that came out of that disastrous time, and they offered some value that was irrefutable, right? So while everybody else was shrinking and cutting and just doing the typical corporate thing, I think there's an opportunity, and I'd love to get your opinion. I think there's an opportunity here to, again, go inward. Like, okay, what motivates us? What are decisions that we're making? Do they align with creating real value, or is it just a message, or is it just a gimmick, or is it just a perception we're trying to create, which is easy to do when the markets are hot, right? No one's going to dispute it because everybody's buying, everybody's moving forward. But when things get difficult, I think you have to get a lot more genuine with this idea of, hey, you know what? We're struggling, you're struggling. Let's help each other out. Maybe create deferred payment programs, discounts, and some other creative ways to serve everyone and create a win-win scenario. So what are some of the things that you are offering right now? Companies that are thinking about going inward, thinking about, maybe improving their sales strategy, improving their marketing strategy, looking at, potential pivots, getting smarter about how they use data. What is something that you can make that's available to them that you want to kind of broadcast and let people know?
Sure.
First of all, who's a good target market for you? What's the ideal type of customer that should be contacting you?
Well, typically I sell to enterprise sales teams, and the latest product that I have is the culmination of 2 years of R&D. I learned machine learning from a manager point of view. I don't code, like I said, Python and things like that. So we, in the last 2 years, I used the machine learning to build a list of about 800,000 rules as it relates to data. It could be spelling errors or organizational errors where things should be switched around. It can be things that should be abbreviated that shouldn't be, extra spaces, things that are in parentheses. Again, it's a lot. It's 800,000. And we use this technology to come up with what I would call candidate errors. Then it goes to a human review that says, yes, this is good. It should make it into our system. So we've got this great data cleansing system that's unrivaled. I mean, I know because I work for other companies that made this technology. So we've got the best data cleansing technology that's out there. But I realized, how do I prove it? How do I show it to people? So about 4 months ago, I got the idea of, well, I need a loss leader, something to show people that this makes sense. So we came up with the idea of what's called the Data Spotlight. And it's simply a Chrome extension, plugs into your Chrome browser, and it'll work with any web-based CRM. And it's simple. You press one button. It's the simplest product I ever got to demonstrate, right? You press one button, and on your Salesforce screen, you could be working with Marketo or Pipedrive or Dynamic CRM, anything. It'll literally highlight in yellow on black or red on black all the errors on the page. So it's that simple. It'll literally highlight all the errors. If you mouse over, it says, oh, instead of PRGM manager, there should be program manager. And what it does is it shows instantly and visually the problems with your data on the page. Right now, we're giving it away. So when someone gets a data cleanse from us, million records, whatever it may be, we clean your data. We give it to all your users. You got 1,000 users, not a problem. We give it to your 1,000 users. So now every user, when they enter a bad set of bad data or they import a set of bad data, it's visually right in front of their face. So it was a great balance to, hey, if we clean it, what do we do after it? And if they've got bad data, how do we show them without going into a lengthy process? So it hit me about 4 months ago. I was like, the old Italian, it hit me. So the Data Spotlight right now, again, it's packaged as part of our data cleansing. In the coming months, we're going to make it free. So it'll be out on the Chrome store. We got a very hard email yesterday from Google that approvals for, and this hurts small businesses. So if Google's listening, please change this. But because of the COVID, I said it again, that all their approvals for the Chrome App Store and everything else are being delayed. So this really hurts small business because you got a lot of small business with little apps out there that they make, you know, which chump change to Google, but it's going to be the lifeblood of my business moving forward. So Google, if you can change that, please change that. I don't think they'll listen, but so that's the big thing I got right now, and I'm excited about it because it removes drudgery. Whenever I go to a trade show and I meet someone, and it's probably be a while, and they're like, Donato, I use your technology and it saved me time. I used to go through my eyes, straining my eyes at night, looking for the bad data, cleaning our CRM. Now it's like a spotlight is on the data and a suggested correction. So I'm excited about it because it's going to make people's lives better. It's going to make me a little money. It's going to reward the engineers that worked on this and make a difference.
Sounds great. Hey, you never know. Google could be listening. We did have their chief evangelist on the show 2 years ago, so Vince Cerf. So you never know. They could be listening to this. That's a great tip. Move things a little faster during this process instead of slower.
Yes, not slower. Not slower.
Exactly.
That's a shot in the. I got that. You know, it was like 6 a.m. I'm reading my first couple emails on my phone. I'm like, oh really? So all right, adjust.
Yeah, pull it together. Well, we're coming up on time. Carlos, do you have any other questions for Donato? Otherwise, I just want to kind of get his take on what it's been like for him as an entrepreneur building these companies, and any words of wisdom he'd like to share with anyone else who's thinking about it, who may be looking at this opportunity, whatever happens, and they got laid off. Maybe it's an opportunity for them to reinvent themselves. Any questions before we go into that, Carlos?
No, we're good so far, Tulio. I look forward to staying in touch with Donato in the future. And what I'd like to do, if I'm
hang on, before we do that, I just want to get Donato's sort of last words of wisdom about his journey as an entrepreneur building businesses, and any words of wisdom you have for anyone who might have been laid off because of COVID-19 that might be in a position to maybe reinvent themselves and create a company. What words of wisdom would you have to share with them?
Well, if there's a possibility, I think everything centers around habits. And I always think of I can't remember what book it was, but they talked about an ice cube melting. And think of it as, you've got potential energy or heat that you're putting towards this ice cube. It's 20 degrees and you're looking at it and nothing happened. And then it's 21 degrees as nothing happened. This is the work you're putting in. And it's 22 degrees. And eventually, all of a sudden, you hit 32 degrees and you've got all this work that you've put in. It's the same thing of putting time in, learning something, upping your skills, that all of a sudden it melts. And it's what happened before that got you to that point to bring the ambient temperature up to melt that ice cube. It may look like it's sudden, but it was a buildup of energy. It's the same thing with being an entrepreneur. And one of the hardest things is knowing when to do something yourself and when to delegate that. And I tend to do the really boring but important things myself because I tend to learn there. So when I have 800,000 rules as it relates to data, I was the one going through that, seeing patterns and understanding versus outsourcing that to someone else. So now I've got such a great understanding. I see data and I'll see things that others don't see because I've seen so much. So don't be afraid to dive into one narrow area that you can improve, because if you can become an expert in a specific area, that tends to be a lot more marketable than a broad generalist, especially if you've got years at a company and there's some area that you can improve. So dive in. Get up early, go to bed late, use those times that the kids, if you have them, aren't around, and immerse yourself. And if you love it, even more so. It makes it where it's not like work.
Donato, thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Carlos, we have one more show tomorrow. My good friend, David Meltzer, is joining us. We're going to be talking about road to revenue and happiness. I'm looking forward to having him.
That is correct.
It's gonna be a one-on-one conversation, David and I, on the show. So those of you watching who are fans, I know he's got a pretty big following. Please join us. It's going to be a very uplifting and positive conversation, which is something we all need right now. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right,
same
guys.
time,
Thank you.
same channel.
Thank you so much,
1 p.m.
Donato, for having joined us today. See you next time.